this installment, we're counting down our picks for the top 5 most revealing facts about communism. This probably won't be anything new to serious students of history, but for the average person, these facts ought to shine a new light onto the so-called Red Devil. Number 5. Its main principles were established by Karl Marx. 19th century philosopher Karl Marx founded Marxism, a socio-economic system in which class and state are abolished. Its tenets were outlined in the Communist Manifesto, a pamphlet co-written by Marx and Friedrich Engels, that detailed the steps the nation would have to take in order to become self-sustaining. In the 160-plus years since its publication, Marxism has given way to communism and socialism, which are the main political implementations of the Marxist philosophy. Because they are governing systems, the original ideas of Marxism have been tweaked to fit their respective agendas, which is counterintuitive since true Marxism is the absence of government. Due to this mistreatment of ideals, communism has mutated into a brutal dictatorship, while socialism is considered communism's easygoing cousin.
Tuition is free in many of those countries. Excellent. They have excellent childcare, strong retirement benefits. They're often very strongly pro-environment, taking on climate change.
It's still considered troublesome by many, but with more safeguards and individual rights.
I guarantee you, these people have never been to a socialist country. I've been to a socialist country.
Right.
It's fine. We're
Right.
great.
Number 4. The Cold War was a result of capitalism and communism clashing. The US and the USSR were allies in World War II. They worked together to take down Hitler, end the Holocaust, and bring temporary peace to Earth. Because Germany, Italy, and Japan were defeated and the majority of Eurasia was in ruins, America and the Soviet Union became the world's superpowers, responsible for cleaning up the residual mess and restoring order to the displaced countries. They shared custody of the remaining war-torn nations, but because of their government's conflicting ideologies, locked horns on how they were to be run.
I can no longer sit back and allow communist infiltration, communist indoctrination, communist subversion.
Before you knew it, walls were being built, deals were being broken, and countries were being invaded.
From Stettin in the Baltic to Trieste in the Adriatic, an iron curtain has descended across the continent.
By the late 40s, the two were sworn enemies, and the promise of mutually assured destruction resulted in nearly 50 years of tension. But now they're totally besties. America loves Vladimir Putin. Number 3. The Red Scare turned artists into enemies.
It is necessary to investigate before legislating, but the line between investigating and persecuting is a very fine one, and the junior senator from Wisconsin has stepped over it repeatedly.
Communism is anti-capitalist. The sort of consumeristic bliss that America started vibing on after World War II was completely incompatible with the weird, egalitarian austerity that Soviet Russia was rocking. And so communism was vilified in American political discourse. Enter Senator Joe McCarthy, who, in the 40s and 50s, manned a witch hunt to find and punish American citizens who were considered pro-communist.
Certainly he can present a bill for such services. After all, we are not communists.
That came to mean anyone who was anti-war, anti-segregation, liberal-leaning, or ideologically different in any way. And of course, who better to negatively influence Americans than artists? So McCarthy's House Un-American Activities Committee took a special interest in them. A few were jailed, but many more were blacklisted from working in the entertainment industry.
We will not walk in fear one of another. We will not be driven by fear into an age of unreason if we dig deep in our history and our doctrine.
These included Hollywood legends like Lloyd Bridges, Orson Welles, and Charlie Chaplin.
I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that.
Number 2. It's idyllic in theory, but pretty rough in practice. The purest form of communism is without government and money. It is a utopia where everybody works for each other, everybody feeds each other, and everyone is self-governed.
We don't need the government telling us how to run our industry.
A person does not have to worry about inequality, poverty, or hunger, as his fellow man will help him out, and in turn, he will help his fellow man, for the greater good of everyone.
Really? That sounds pretty good.
However, no country has ever succeeded in pulling this off, possibly because humans are inherently selfish and greedy.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works.
Instead, the world has had mostly tyrannical regimes under the guise of communism. Regimes where, despite whatever positive things may have come with them, hundreds of millions of civilians starved, were worked to death in labor camps, and were systematically executed in great purges carried out, ironically, for the greater good. Number 1. Communism helped and hurt the civil rights movement in America. In theory, communism believes in racial equality. As such, the Communist Party was significant in defending and promoting civil rights for African Americans, lobbying for desegregation, unionized workers, and voting rights. Many African Americans joined the Communist Party. In fact, in the 1940s, one black communist, Benjamin J. Davis Jr., was elected to New York City Council before being ousted and jailed for being a communist. The association with communism eventually hurt the civil rights movement, though. There was a time during the Cold War when anyone who spoke of equality, whether communist affiliated or not, was deemed anti-American.
So everyone's right. It's America. We just can't do it at that unreasonable expense of others. Because then it becomes un-American.
Some historians speculate if the Cold War had never happened, and the word equality hadn't gotten such a bum rap, civil rights would have been granted a lot earlier.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
So, what do you think of communism? Can it ever live up to its lofty ideals?